So today I'm going to run down the 31 states where you'll find Amish. I'm going to go largest Amish population to smallest. Is your state on the list? So first state, Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania's best known settlement is Lancaster County. This state has the three oldest Amish settlements, and those are the only communities that were started in the 1700s. Number two, Ohio. Two very big communities, Holmes County and then Geauga County. It also has a lot of small communities scattered across the state. In fact, it's got over 60 communities in Ohio. Number three, Indiana. Indiana is the last of the big three Amish states. But interestingly, Indiana only has about 24 communities. And so what that means is that Indiana has a good number of settlements that are pretty big. You got everything from Elkhart and LaGrange counties in the north, Davis County in the south. You've got the two large Swiss Amish settlements in Adams County and Allen counties. The next state is known as a dairy state, so it kind of makes sense that there might be a lot of Amish in the state. It's Wisconsin. Wisconsin has over 60 communities, and the largest one is at Cashton. Number five surprises some people, but this is New York. This actually may be the most popular of all states over the last 5, 10, 15 years for new Amish settlements. The largest community is a Swartzentruber Amish community way up near the northern Canadian border. We'll be having more state guide videos on individual states, and some of you may have already seen the first one of those, which was on the Amish in North Carolina. Number six, Michigan has had a long Amish presence, and it has over 50 communities today. The largest of those is at Centerville in St. Joseph County. So Missouri comes in at number seven, another one with over 50 Amish settlements. The biggest communities or most significant here are at Seymour, Clark, and also at Jamesport. Now, Seymour is the largest there. It's a very plain community. And Jamesport, on the other hand, is more on the progressive end. Number eight is Kentucky. Another one similar to like New York, which has drawn a lot of Amish settlement from other states and other places. The largest community is at Munfordville in Hart County, and that one has roots in the Geauga County, Ohio community. Number nine is Iowa. Amish have lived in Iowa since the mid-1800s when the Kelowna community was founded. It's a settlement that has 9 or 10 Old Order church districts there, and then it's got one New Order Amish church there, and they have a meeting house. If you don't know what the Old Order, New Order difference is, I talk about that in the video on the Amish in North Carolina. A couple other large ones there at Bloomfield and Buchanan County. Last of the top 10 is Illinois, and this state is dominated by one large settlement. That's the Arthur community. And that's a special one for me because that's where I first really got to know the Amish, way back in 2004. A lot of woodworkers there, very flat land. Number 11 is Minnesota. The largest settlement here is at a place called Harmony, and that's a very plain Swartzentruber Amish community. Interestingly, these Amish have been in the news lately because they've been involved in a long-running case or dispute over disposal of so-called gray water, and that recently actually had an appeal at the Supreme Court where they won the appeal. Number 12, Tennessee. One of my favorite communities is the kind of the big community in this state. That's at Etheridge. Also a very plain Swartzentruber community, have a lot of businesses there. It's a fun one just to drive around and stop in and buy peanut brittle and produce and pies and who knows what. They're selling baskets and candles and furniture, everything. Tennessee also has around a dozen other small communities scattered around the state. Number 13, Kansas. Kansas has several very, I would say, quite old communities founded in the late 1800s and early 1900s. They're quite a small size today for such old communities. They're only like 2 or 3 churches each. One of them is near a town called Yoder, which is a great name for a town in an Amish community. If you want to know more about Amish surnames, I did a video on that topic, and yes, Yoder is on that list. Number 14 is Delaware. It's just got a single Amish community. It's been there over 100 years. It's kind of right next to the capital there, next to Dover. And so that's created some population pressure, some land pressure, and it's caused a number of Amish to leave Delaware to start communities in other states like Virginia, for example. Number 15 is Maryland. The big settlement of the 3 communities in Maryland is the one in St. Mary's County. This was settled by Amish who moved there from Lancaster County way back in 1940. So you'll see the Lancaster gray buggies here, but it's a little bit, I'd say, like it's plainer community. One quite interesting thing, when I visited this community, I was able to see a number of signs that were advertising Amish products in both English and in Spanish. So you'd see cheese and queso. Number 16 is Virginia. This state has been bringing in new Amish settlements for kind of a while now. There are a couple located in the west in the mountains in very beautiful settings. Brooks Garden and another one near the town of Harrisburg or Whitegate is the name of the local community there. Number 17, this one sometimes surprises people, it's Montana. There's actually been an Amish presence in Montana since the 1970s, which is when the Rexford or West Kootenai community was founded. They've actually got a total of 9 communities now in Montana. So I think Amish like to move there to, they like the outdoors, fishing, hunting, those sorts of things. There was even an article about some young Amish downhill skiers in one of the Montana communities. A couple of those communities have well-attended annual school benefit auctions that bring in a lot of people from all around. Number 18, this was Maine. More Amish seem to be settling here in Maine. They actually are up to around 8 communities now, and lately they seem to get a new settlement started there about every couple years. Number 19 is Colorado. Amish really live in some beautiful settings in Colorado. There are 5 communities in Colorado. They've all been started in this century. Number 20 is Oklahoma, and there are just 4 communities in Oklahoma. The largest is at Choteau. They actually permit the use of tractors in the fields at that community, which is kind of unusual for the Amish. So Amish often have tractors, but they just use the engine power to power machinery. They don't use them in the field to do their field work, most Amish. So number 21 is West Virginia. This state for a long time really had hardly any Amish. They actually recently doubled their number of communities from 3 to 6 in the space of a couple years. I visited one of the communities in Summers County last year, which is a very beautiful and kind of mountainous, as you'd expect, region. Number 22 is Nebraska. And there are not a lot of Amish in this state. It has 3 settlements, and they were all founded back in the mid to late 2000s. 06, 07, 08 each year had 1 community, and none of them have grown that large in that time. Now, this is not to be confused with the Nebraska Amish, which is another group that primarily lives in Pennsylvania. This would be the group that drives the white top buggies and generally quite on the conservative side of things. 23 is Arkansas, and there are just 2 communities here in Arkansas. Doesn't seem to be a lot of settlement happening in the natural state. We had quite an interesting post by Don Burke, who takes a lot of the photos that I use in these videos, where Don visited the site of what you might call an extinct Amish community, or basically where Amish lived for a while and then it just didn't work out. They had to move away. And so he actually went and took some photos of some of the old places where the Amish lived and some shots of the old schoolhouse. I'll put a link to it in the description. Number 24 is Wyoming. This also has just 2 communities. The first of those was founded in 2011, and then 2020, another community was added. Number 25 is North Carolina. 2 communities in the state. One is a Swartzentruber Amish community, and one is a New Order Amish community. So it's kind of interesting that it has one of the most conservative types of Amish and also one of the most progressive. Number 26, Mississippi. I enjoyed visiting the one community in Mississippi. It's a Swartzentruber Amish community. Very plain, small, but nice community. It's been there since 1993. Number 27 is Florida. There's one unique settlement there called Pinecraft, which is kind of like a neighborhood or district right in Sarasota, or right next to Sarasota. It's basically part of the city. This is what you might consider an Amish vacation community. There aren't that many Amish that live here year-round, but in the winter months, those numbers swell dramatically, where you have a lot of visitors that come down from northern states like Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania. There are no buggies here. Amish here use bicycles, tricycles, their feet to get around. And if you visit, you can see why there's no buggies there. It's in the city, basically. Number 28 is Vermont, and this state has just a single settlement. And this was a community that started in 2015 in the so-called Northeast Kingdom region of the state, which apparently is a beautiful area. This will be the second New England state with an Amish presence after Maine. Number 29, this one tends to surprise some people, but it is the Lone Star State, Texas. Texas has been home to a small Amish community about 2 hours from the Mexican border since 1999. This is in a place called B County, around the town of Beeville. It does not look like your typical Amish settlement, as you can see in these photos. Quite dry, arid appearance to the land, which I guess is kind of what South Texas looks like. It doesn't look like central Ohio or Wisconsin. Number 30 is South Dakota. And this has also just got one community, started in 2010, a place called Tripp in Hutchinson County. Pretty remote place to live, and Amish sometimes do choose remote areas to settle. That can adversely affect their chances of the settlement succeeding, but for whatever reason, some Amish are drawn to those places. Maybe it's the scenic beauty of the area. Maybe there's some other opportunity, or maybe the land is just especially inexpensive there. Finally, number 31 is Idaho. Idaho got its single Amish settlement in 2012. This is located near the town of Salmon, Salmon, like the fish, in Lemhi County. No idea, but there's apparently a quite nice Amish-run store in this community, which has got produce and cheese and some other nice things. So there you have it. Those are the 31 states that have an Amish presence, that have at least one Amish settlement. I talked about the states here. I've also got videos on the 10 largest Amish communities, on the 5 friendliest Amish communities, in my opinion. And I also did one on 10 unusual Amish communities. Hit the subscribe button if you want to stay in the loop for future videos. I'm doing 2 videos per week. And thanks for all the comments. A lot of interesting comments. I've really enjoyed reading some of your experiences with the Amish, some of the places where you live, some of the businesses you visited, Amish friends, all those things. So that's pretty cool. And thanks a bunch for sharing that.